Explosion. So Hee suddenly announced her marriage at the age of 31, and the groom's identity has left fans in total shock. Could this be the twist no one saw coming? The glamorous world of K-drama is buzzing with whispers, tears, and endless speculation. Join Red Carpet Revealed as we dive into the untold details and uncover the truth behind this sensational revelation, right now. The lights inside the Grand Walker Hills Seoul ballroom were blinding. Not because of the chandeliers that draped elegantly above the audience, but because of the overwhelming flashes from hundreds of cameras. Reporters, journalists, photographers packed into the luxurious hall, their murmurs creating a wave of anticipation that rippled from corner to corner. It was an ordinary Tuesday afternoon that had suddenly turned into the most extraordinary day in Korean entertainment history. The whispers had started the moment the invitations went out. So Hee, the reigning goddess of K-drama and one of Korea's most enigmatic stars, had called for a press event. Nobody expected that what she was about to say would rock the entertainment industry to its very core. When So Hee finally stepped onto the stage, the room fell silent. She was dressed simply in a soft ivory dress, her hair tied back neatly, her makeup understated but flawless. Her eyes sparkled under the spotlight. But there was something different about her gaze, something determined, something secretive that everyone in the room could sense. She approached the podium, placed her trembling hands on either side of the microphone, delivered the words that would send shockwaves across Korea, Asia, and eventually the entire world. "Today," she said, her voice calm yet quivering with emotion, "I want to share with you a truth I've carried in my heart. I am getting married." The room gasped collectively. It wasn't the usual reaction one might expect at a celebrity wedding announcement. It was louder, heavier, tinged with disbelief. The very idea that So Hee, who had so often portrayed heartbreak, rebellion, and independence on screen, was stepping into marriage at the age of 31 sent an explosion of emotions through the crowd. Social media went into meltdown within seconds. It spread like wildfire. So Hee is getting married. But the true storm hadn't even begun. The bombshell was not just in her announcement of marriage. It was in the identity of the groom. Reporters leaned forward, their pens poised, their cameras zooming closer. So Hee paused, almost as if she were reluctant to let the name slip from her lips. But then she smiled, a smile that mixed tenderness with a flicker of defiance. "The man I have chosen to spend the rest of my life with," she continued, "is someone who has stood by me quietly, someone who never sought the spotlight, and yet someone who has changed my life completely." When she revealed the groom's name, the ballroom erupted. Gasps turned into stunned shouts. Some jaws literally dropped, while others glanced around in disbelief, whispering frantically to confirm if they had heard correctly. The groom was not another A-list actor, not a singer, not a director from the film industry, not even a celebrity of any kind. He was an unexpected figure whose name carried weight in a completely different sphere. Fans across the world reading the breaking news headlines could hardly process it. The man who had stolen So Hee's heart was a figure nobody imagined. Within minutes, hashtags like So Hee marriage, shocking groom, an unbelievable couple began trending across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. In Japan, she topped Yahoo searches. In Thailand, fan clubs organized emergency live streams to discuss the news. In Vietnam, online communities exploded with memes, speculation, and emotional tributes. In the United States, where So Hee had built a growing international fan base thanks to Netflix dramas, sites scrambled to translate the news for a Western audience. But behind the chaos, one thing was clear: this was no publicity stunt. So Hee's eyes as she delivered the announcement were glistening with sincerity. This was real. What followed in that ballroom was a scene that reporters would later describe as the most dramatic press event in Korean entertainment history. As So Hee spoke about her love story, her voice cracked occasionally, her hands tightening into fists as if to summon courage. She revealed that the romance had not been something born overnight but a bond nurtured quietly, away from the cameras, away from the harsh eyes of the public. The story of their love, she explained, was one of secrecy, patience, and endurance. Shared moments stolen in the quiet corners of Seoul, dinners that passed unnoticed in dimly lit restaurants, conversations held under disguises and behind closed doors. Fans had once speculated, pointing at grainy paparazzi photos and unconfirmed rumors, But the pieces never fit together, until now. And yet, what shocked fans most wasn't simply that she was marrying. It was the fact that So Hee, known for her sharp, edgy image, had chosen someone so different from the expectations the industry had built around her. He was neither a Jebel heir nor a megastar idol. He was someone whose influence lay in his quiet strength. A man whose life had been rooted in stability and substance rather than flashing lights. To some, it felt impossible. To others, it was a sign of So Hee's courage to break free from the expectations of fame and follow her heart. The reactions online reflected this divide. Some fans rejoiced, showering her with congratulations. "He deserves happiness," one user wrote. "I've loved her through her dramas. And now it's time for her to live her own love story." Expressed confusion, even betrayal. Unable to reconcile their image of So Hee with the man she had chosen. "I never saw this coming." One international fan tweeted. "It feels like a plot twist in one of her dramas." The media frenzy that erupted was relentless. TV channels interrupted regular programming to broadcast the announcement. Talk shows featured panels of experts speculating on what this meant for her career. News anchors replayed the clip of her trembling voice again and again, analyzing every pause, every flicker of her eyes. While, outside the Grand Walker Hill, fans had gathered with banners and flowers, expecting a typical press event. Instead, many found themselves sobbing, holding each other in disbelief. Some screamed with joy, others sat on the ground, stunned. The atmosphere was electric, charged with emotions too big to contain. But beyond the chaos of public reaction, the bigger question loomed: how had this love story begun? Why had it been kept secret for so long? And how would this revelation reshape the destiny of So Hee's career and personal life? Tracing back her journey, news began to surface. Whispers of late-night meetings, sightings in cafes tucked away in Itaewon, a mysterious companion spotted during overseas trips, details that had once been dismissed as coincidence now resurfaced with new meaning. Suddenly, everything added up. The veil of secrecy had finally lifted, and the truth had come crashing into the open like an unstoppable wave. The people closest to So Hee had apparently known, or at least suspected, for months. A fellow actress, not to be named, reportedly said after the announcement, "I always saw something different in her eyes lately. She looked softer, calmer, as if she had found her safe place." Her managers, masters at hiding every detail of her private life, admitted that it had been the actress's own choice to keep things under wraps until she was ready. But was Korea ready? Was the world ready? Years, So Hee had been more than just an actress. She was an icon of resilience, having risen from hardships and controversies to become a beloved star. Her roles in dramas like The World of the Merit and My Name had cemented her as a powerhouse performer, someone unafraid to take on bold characters. Fans admired her independence, her fierceness, refusal to fit neatly into the mold of a traditional Korean starlet. And yet, on this afternoon, she revealed a side of herself that none of her fans had truly expected, the side of a woman willing to embrace vulnerability and commit to love. The announcement left an open wound of curiosity. Exactly was the man who had captured the heart of So Hee. What was it about him that had drawn her away from the glittering world of stardom into a private sanctuary of love? Why reveal it now, at this precise moment in her career? Stood at the peak of fame. As the first part of her story unraveled, one thing became clear: this was not just about marriage. It was about defying expectations, the courage to love when the world is watching, and about a woman who had lived her life under the blinding gaze of the spotlight, finally reclaiming her right to happiness. The world would have to wait for the rest of the story, the details of how they met, how they built their love in secrecy. This marriage would mean for her glittering career. But for now, the explosion of her words was still echoing, shaking the very foundation of the entertainment industry. The echoes of So Hee's words had barely faded from the ballroom, yet the world outside had already spun into chaos. Fans refreshed their phones frantically, searching for every snippet of information about the mysterious groom. Entertainment outlets crashed under the surge of traffic. Everyone demanded answers. Who is he? How had he remained invisible until now? And why had So Hee chosen this moment, at the very height of her fame, to reveal such a personal truth? As the cameras continued to flash, So Hee took a breath, studying herself. glanced toward the side of the stage. And though no one could see clearly through the blinding lights, some reporters swore they caught a silhouette, a tall figure watching quietly from the shadows. He did not step forward, nor did she beckon him. The knowing smile that crossed her lips was enough to confirm that the groom was present, somewhere in the room, standing silently as history unfolded around them. Insiders would reveal fragments of the story. Their paths had crossed not on a set or at a glamorous industry party, but in the quiet corridors of an art gallery in Seoul 3 years earlier. So Hee had been drawn to the paintings, in the kind of raw emotion she often brought to her own roles, when she noticed a man equally captivated, painting before the same canvas. A conversation sparked that day, about art, about passion, about a kind of meaning hidden beneath the surface of things. What began as a shared appreciation of creativity soon blossomed into something much deeper. Their romance, though quiet, had been intense. Friends recalled the way she would disappear for short stretches of time, only to return to set with a glow in her eyes that no amount of makeup could create. He was not part of the entertainment world. Secrecy easier but also riskier. To keep their love hidden, they avoided crowded restaurants, opting for small cafes tucked away in Seoul's backstreets. When traveling, they would book under false names, disguising themselves in ordinary clothes. Into the anonymity of foreign cities, there were close calls, paparazzi shots of So Hee with a mystery companion, speculative headlines that fizzled out quickly because the evidence was inconclusive. Some fans had suspected, but without proof. The rumors dissolved into the vast ocean of celebrity gossip. No one realized at the time was that the man in those blurred photos was the very one who now stood to become her husband. Her family, initially shocked, grown to accept him. Sources close to So Hee's mother described her tears of relief upon meeting the man her daughter had chosen. He's not dazzled by her fame. One relative reportedly said. He sees her as a woman first, not a celebrity. That's all a mother could hope for. Groom's family, too, had been protective, worried about what it would mean to marry into a life lived under constant scrutiny. But seeing the devotion between the two, resistance melted into quiet approval. The entertainment industry, however, remained in turmoil. Advertisers scrambled to calculate whether her marriage would affect her brand value. Some executives feared that fans who idolized her as a single independent figure might feel betrayed. Others argued that her honesty and boldness would only elevate her image, making her even more relatable to the millions who longed to see her happy beyond the screen. Within hours, companies released statements affirming their support, emphasizing that So Hee's personal life would not change their professional commitments. Globally, the reaction was no less intense. In Japan, news anchors compared the announcement to historic celebrity weddings, while in Thailand, fans gathered in public squares holding up banners of congratulations. In Vietnam, entire fan groups organized live streams dissecting every detail of the press conference. In the United States, major entertainment outlets like Variety and Deadline rushed to publish stories, noting how So Hee had become a household name internationally through her Netflix hits. The headlines varied. The sentiment was unanimous. This was a cultural moment that transcended borders. And then, as if to fuel the frenzy, began swirling about the wedding itself. Where would it be held? Who would be invited? Would the ceremony be private? Or would she dare to share glimpses of it with the public? Speculation turned feverish when a well-connected stylist hinted on social media that So Hee had already been working with top designers to create a gown that would redefine bridal elegance. Some whispered about Italy, about Jeju Island, but many believed she would choose Seoul, the city that had both made her and hidden her greatest secret. For fans, the thought of the guest list was enough to send imaginations spiraling. Would her closest friends in the industry, actresses she had worked alongside, be bridesmaids? Would directors and co-stars attend? What about the leading men she had shared the screen with? Fans once speculated might have been her secret loves. The idea of seeing all these figures gathered under one roof for her wedding became almost too thrilling to imagine. Yet, amid the speculation and celebration, there were voices of criticism. Some skeptics argue that she had been reckless, that revealing such news at the peak of her career was unwise. Others accused her of betraying fans who had invested in her image of independence. A few tabloids even spun the story negatively, questioning whether the groom had ulterior motives. So Hee's silence in response only deepened her aura of grace. She refused to let the negativity overshadow her truth. Her message was clear: she was not marrying for the public, but for herself. In one particularly emotional moment during the press conference, she addressed her fans directly. "You have given me love beyond what I could ever imagine," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "I want you to know that this decision comes from the same place as my work, from my heart. I am still the actress you have supported all these years. I'm also a woman who has found love. I hope you can share this happiness with me." The sincerity of her words silenced many critics. Even those who had felt betrayed found themselves moved by her vulnerability. The idea of So Hee, who had endured so much to carve out her place in the entertainment world, finally finding personal happiness, resonated deeply. As the days passed, interviews with people close to the couple began to paint a fuller picture. Friends described the groom as calm, intelligent, fiercely protective. One insider recalled a night when paparazzi had nearly caught them leaving a restaurant. While So Hee panicked, he had calmly guided her through the back exit, shielding her from the cameras with an ease that came not from training but from instinct. "He has always been her anchor," the source said. "He grounds her in a way that no one else could." Meanwhile, production companies quietly reassured anxious fans that her upcoming projects would proceed as planned. In fact, hinted that her new chapter might even inspire fresher, deeper performances. Directors who had worked with her described how her personal experiences often fueled the intensity of her roles. If that were true, her next performances would carry the fire of someone who had lived through the storm of love under the world's harshest spotlight. By the time the initial frenzy began to settle, the thing was undeniable: So Hee's marriage was no ordinary celebrity event. It had become a cultural phenomenon that blurred the lines between real and real, between fiction and life. It was not simply about who she was marrying, it was about what she represented: the courage to be human in a world that demanded perfection. As the closing minutes of the press conference arrived, So Hee stood a little taller, her tremors replaced by calm conviction. She bowed deeply, thanking the press, the fans, everyone who had supported her journey. The applause that followed was thunderous, echoing long after she left the stage. Inside, the world kept buzzing, still dissecting every word, every gesture, every hint. So Hee, the storm had already given way to a quiet clarity. She had spoken her truth. She had chosen her love. And now, she was ready to walk into the future, not as a character in a drama, not as an idolized image. A woman stepping into her own story. The cameras may have caught her tears. The fans may have cried in disbelief. The industry may have trembled with uncertainty. But in the end, the explosion of her announcement was not just about shock. It was about freedom. So Hee, at 31, had written the most unexpected script of all, and the world could not look away. I would like to extend my heartfelt thanks to all the readers who have walked through this emotional journey with me. From the first shocking announcement to the deeper truths behind So Hee's decision. Your patience, curiosity, passion are the very reasons stories like these come alive beyond the headlines. Thank you to the fans whose unwavering voices shape the narrative of every star. To the journalists and photographers who capture fleeting moments that turn into history, and above all, to those who continue to believe in love even when it appears in the most unexpected places. This story was not just about a marriage, it was about courage, humanity, and the resilience of following one's heart. Every reader who stayed until the final word, I am deeply grateful. May this piece remind you that behind the spotlight, a public figure is still a person searching for happiness, just like us.